try.
Okay, how's that family? My name is Brother Ray. How you doing, True? We'd like to welcome everyone to the Brooklyn William Mackey Jr. History Club. We meet here every other Wednesday in honor of William Mackey Jr., Dr. Professor Amos Wilson, El-Haj Malik Shabazz, the late great Attorney Alton Maddox, Brother Hassan, Louis Ray Rivera, Minister Khalid, Gil Noble, Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Ivan Van Sertima, Professor George Simmons, Miss Leola Maddox, and all the people who gave up fame and fortune. Miss Leola Maddox, who drove an old car to the UAM because she believed in bringing people together. She ate her dinner at the United African Movement to bring people together. So we never want to forget the great work of Miss Leola Maddox. So for the people that just came in the audience, the Zoom people, and the people that's here, give yourself a great big hand. And we believe in bringing people together. So we want to bring the camera over to the Amos collection. And these are the books to help Brother Sababu continue the work of African World Info Systems. We have, zoom the camera in, the blueprint for Black Power. Sababu's classic in honor of Amos, the psychology of self-hatred and self-defeat toward a reclamation of the African mind. Black on black violence, the psychodynamic of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. African-centered consciousness versus the New World Order. Issues of manhood in black and white. Awakening the natural genius of black children, the falsification of African consciousness, S.K. Damiani, distorted truths and the bastardization, and also Louis Ray Rivera's classic, Jazz in Jail. So those books are to help Amos and Sababu continue the work of African World Info Systems. So we have some other books that we like the listening audience because it is about information. We have Max Dumont, Jews, God, and History. And a lot of historical facts are made up. And you'll never know, but you read this book and you'll find out. Our second publication is African Slavery in Latin America and the Caribbean. That's another classic. I just picked up this book right here. Fidel, Memories of a Meeting, Fidel and Malcolm X. Found this book and it's edited by Rosemary Mealy. Excellent publication, and I happen to be cruising Black Classic Press and got that. Ladies and gentlemen, you have never looked at crime in the way our gang, Jewish crime, and the New York Jewish community from the 1900s to the 1940s. And if you want to read about it, all of our people participating in criminal activities should read these books. And that's what I like. Black on black violence, the psychodynamics of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. You hear everything about black on black violence, we killing each other, but they fail to look at Amos's classic, the psychodynamics of black self-annihilation in service of white domination. So we are still being controlled and dominated by white folks, and that constitutes a lot of black on black violence. The way we act, what we do. Louis Ray Rivera's classic, Jazz in Jail. And Louis Ray, when Professor Mackey left us, Louis Ray came in and he would speak for hours. And he took up the mantle and he would speak, and then we would walk him home and he would speak for another hour and a half. And he only lived right around the corner. So we have this in honor of Louis Ray Rivera. Capitalism on a ventilator. The impact of CO-19 in China and the US. In honor of Dr. Ben, we have Black Man of the Nile and his family. Dr. Ben did an excellent job on this book, so we never want to forget Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, and all these individuals. Medical marijuana, we got weed is basically legal. And you got everybody smoking it. They waiting in front of the weed stores instead of the liquor stores now. Well, you could thank Lyndon LaRouche. Bringing up the culprit behind this is George Soros. And he has everybody in his back pocket. And he's the brains behind legalized marijuana while everybody is just going crazy smoking this stuff. The Unspoken Alliance, Israel's secret pact, relations with apartheid South Africa. Excellent publication, and you can get the book on Amazon. Ain't nobody telling Jeff Bezos what not to sell. Go Quietly OL, Spiro Agnew, and his own story, the events leading to his resignation. You got some powerful people up there in Washington. In honor of Dr. Randy Short, Slavery Mastery, the impact of religious slavery revealed, and this is in honor of Dr. Randy Short. The Destruction of Black Civilization with Chancellor Williams. Excellent book, and not everything was correct in Aqualand, and Chancellor Williams will tell you all the mistakes we made as a people. We want to thank the great Chancellor Williams on this. In honor of Big Harold, the transfer agreement, the untold story of the secret pact between the Third Reich and Jewish Palestine. And they did not like Edwin Black for writing this book. Our girl, Cynthia McKinney. And if anybody that you had a chance to vote for president, not this phony we have running for president now, but when Cynthia McKinney ran for president, you couldn't get nobody one to vote for. That was the one that you were supposed to vote for. Not this, I don't know what it is that's running for president now. But in honor of Cynthia McKinney, who in my personal opinion, the only one that cared about the people of Georgia, and she asked the tough questions of Rumsfeld and them. When China sneezes from the coronavirus lockdown to the global political economics. And she happened to be involved in another book when Donald Trump said shithole countries, when he was talking about other countries being S-hole countries. Well, the title of this book is How the U.S. Creates S-hole countries, and is edited by Cynthia McKinney. So if you want to know why a country has an S-hole country that they say, you better look at what the United States did to make that country like that. We have the book right here. Everybody's talking about reparations. You can't, you name it, it's a committee all over the place talking about reparations. But they never mention this book. Zoom in. And here's a guy being strung up, another guy being hung, barbecues, black men being hung in Kentucky, fried, the dogs, the hangings, the postcards, without sanctuary. So with all these people with these committees, they must not be reading this stuff. They must don't have this book. The Manchurian Candidate, Wayne Mansfield, and they have another book by Dexter Hartley that Brother Darren talks about. The Manufacturing of the President, the CIA insertion of Barack Hussein Obama into the White House, and his numerous aliases, Barry Santoro, all kind of aliases. And they brought him into Chicago and started him off in Chicago, and look what has happened to Chicago now. And now we have another person who's a Manchurian candidate running for president. And her name is Kamala Emhoff. Ladies and gentlemen, the shadow party, how George Soros, Hillary Clinton in the 60s radicals seized control of the Democratic Party. And this is another classic I'm reading, and this is the inside secret network of George Soros, the man behind the curtain. And let me tell you something right now. This cat right here has all the Democrats in his pocket. And I'm going to read something to you, and it's going to blow your mind on how this guy just pays everybody off. And he got all these people in his pocket, and it even talks about everybody. Now check this out. This is from the book, The Man Behind the Curtain. And I'm going to read a quick paragraph, page 42. Under Biden, the Poor People Campaign. So while Soros is openly backing Biden with his $20 million, he afforded the ability to be invisible, pulling the strings with the latter group, which is arguably more dangerous because it's backed by 30 House Democrats. Under the Biden Poor People's Campaign is unleashing a year-long campaign for the third Reconstruction, which includes, and I want you to pay attention to this, which includes demands to abolish immigration enforcement, expand welfare for illegal immigrants, and remove criminal penalties for violent protesters and rioters. Now, here goes some other demands. Some other demands read like a progressive bingo board, automatic voter registration, which the Democrats definitely tried to pull off voter registration for the illegals coming in, and they took them to court and stopped it. Voter registration, single-payer health care. And this is another one where everybody's talking about reparations. You got so many committees and so many groups talking about reparations. Well, let me tell you, according to this book, George Soros is behind it. Single-payer health care and a reparations commission, cancellation of student housing and utilities and medical debt, as well as all other debts that can't be paid. The estimate cost is tens of trillions of dollars. And if you get into this book, it talks about when Donald Trump won the election, the Wall Street Journal said he lost almost $1 billion trying to finance and degrade this candidate. So this is not me. This is a book called The Man Behind the Curtain. So when you see all this stuff coming up, you look at it. Dr. Scott Whitaker, medicine. The causes and solution and malnutrition and disease and sins that are killing us. We have these books here if you want. In honor of Ayo Kamati, the irritated genie, he comes with a 1-2 punch. The first classic was Jews Are the Problem, and he came out with a second blockbuster, Jews Are the Problem 2, The Psychology of the Jew. We want to thank Ayo Kamati in his publication, and these 2 books is excellent, and the research behind it is impeccable. Causes unknown, the epidemic of sudden death in 20, 21, 22, 23, and 24, and 25. And ladies and gentlemen, every time you open up the newspaper, you can see everybody is dying. And a lot of them look just like me and you. What is going on here? Well, Edward Dow lays out, he has the pictures of the athletes, the kids, everybody. How are they collapsing? So we have that. The real Anthony Fauci, the truth about CO-19, and Bill Gates, Big Pharma, and it talks you about the deadly deeds of Anthony Fauci. Senator Rand Paul, the great cover-up, COVID cover-up. And the Wuhan cover-up and terrifying Kennedy has came through vax versus unvax. Let the science speak in the Wuhan cover-up. So we have these books, you can purchase them, and you can also get them on Amazon. Jeff Bezos is not going to sell any books. He's not going to stop selling books. And ain't nobody going to tell him what to do. And we also have a lecture that you could only get from here, from one of the greats, Dr. Arthur Lewis, that they took off because the stuff they're bringing out now, he said it 4 years ago. So ladies and gentlemen, we have some community events and programs coming on. Thorough Black Talk with Tag, Keisha, Ashe, Brother Blacksmith, and Sister Mama, a.k.a. Sister Marcia. That comes on 8 o'clock, Facebook Live, YouTube. That comes on tomorrow. Saturday at 10:30, Brother Lumumba, Sister Empress Chi, and the Million Women's March. And they are doing a good job in Philly. They got some space over there, and they actually making things happen. So that's Blog Talk Radio. That's 10:30 on Saturdays, 1319-527-6189. We want to thank Sister Empress. Also, Io Kamati, Sankofa Revolutionary Radio. That's WSYP 95.1 Birmingham, Alabama. And Io has a program that comes on 10 o'clock every Monday, and you can call in. Our State of the City powerhouse blockbuster, Darren Muhammad, State of the City out of Baltimore, that comes on Saturday, 1590 on Instagram and on YouTube, and he comes on sometime Wednesday and sometimes Thursday. It's either Wednesday or Thursday. He also comes on with the Flow and the Glow. We want to thank our powerhouse brother Darren Muhammad because he's coming up with some excellent information, and Steve Coakley with his past 2 programs. Steve Coakley would be proud of Brother Darren the way he's laying it out. So it's a bad day for the boule. And I want to thank Brother Darren in his program and his information because he's laying it out about these gatekeepers.
What time? The time?
The time is 12 o'clock. And he comes on at 8 o'clock, 8 o'clock on Wednesdays or Thursdays. Now, Dr. Aline, Your Immunity Project, he comes on 7 o'clock every Tuesday, and that's on Kyle Finding Radio on Wednesday. And Dr. Aline, if you go on Your Immunity Project, you'll find out he has a Zoom meeting coming on every Tuesday, and he's giving up a lot of information on CO-19, the causes and solutions. And the program yesterday was unbelievable. So we want to thank Brother Ali. African Echoes, Newark, New Jersey Connection, Brother Trust Brand, Brother True and Danny and all of them, they have a Friday study group and they're doing the Psychology of Self-Hatred, and that's on Fridays at 8 o'clock. And then they come back and give you a double-header Saturday at 1:30, the Know Thyself study group out of Asbury Park. Brother True and them, they're doing the destruction of black civilization, and they go beyond the call of duty, so that's a 1-2 punch. The Seminole Tap Organization with Dr. James McIntosh, Betty Dobson, Sister Richard Dean Theodore, that comes on Tuesdays at 10 o'clock, not Wednesdays no more. So Dr. James McIntosh is doing an excellent job, and they have a committee going for the Black Solidarity Day event. So we want to thank Semotap and Dr. Mack for trying to get the organizations together to try to bring something going for what's happening, because it's not good for us. So thanks, James McIntosh. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's a lot of things going on, and I'm going to tell you personally, I'm sick of watching all these gatekeepers on TV with this nonsense. Sickening watching them. I just get disgusted every time I open up the TV and see the mayor and all these phonies all being controlled. So I'm just tired of it. Makes it, every time I see it, I just throw up. So it lets you know that they're still being controlled. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to bring on a keynote speaker. And he has a docu-series on YouTube under the B.K. Williams Mackey Jr. History Club. You could go from part 1, this is part 9, and it's going to continue on the Sahel region in North Africa and all the stuff that's happening in Africa. And Africans helping Africans and the Mackey's group. Ladies and gentlemen, we want to give a great big hand for the continuation of the information that Dr. Lewis is bringing to us. And one more thing, you could study all his lectures and go into it. We have a last special event, the Ayo Kamati, the irritated genie, will be coming to New York, and he will be at the Mackey's group in December the 7th. It's going to be a big event. We're bringing in Ayo Kamati in December. But ladies and gentlemen, I want you to give a great big hand to our keynote speaker and the information on the Sahel region in North Africa, Dr. Arthur Lewis. Give him a great big hand.
Good evening, African community. I want to express my appreciation and opportunity for me to be here to converse with you. We have here a handout, and in the future, when we contact Brother Ray Ray, you will be able to get some of the copies of the presentation. And the basic purpose behind the presentations in this format is to bring information that I'm able to do some research on. We all do research on. We all have information that we can impart on each other or among us. So I like to make the presentation in a written form. One, it gives me an opportunity to cover some of the subject that I would like to cover so that I don't forget to cover it. Second, for those who can, they will be able to get a copy of the presentation so that you can do further research and to expand what it is that we're trying to do. Each and every person who's, in this particular case, who comes before you, everybody has information. And all the information that each of us have is equally important because it puts, it brings to our attention a certain type of information that you may know, or each individual knows. And we put it together because we all don't have the information, and no one has the best information. So you have to think about what it is that you're trying to partake of. And what I'm attempting to do is to piece together information that I feel is valuable for us to know. And the reason that it's in a form where you can read, you can refer back to it, is because it takes time to do the research. And like all of the other authors here, each of the authors are making an attempt successfully to bring information to you from different angles here. So I'm just glad that I've been given the opportunity to participate in that type of information giving. Now, in this handout, it comprises 9 pages. And of the 9 pages, each of them has a written structure that I put together to make it easy to read, and also laid it out in such a way that if you're interested in any one particular area that we cover, you're able to go there. Again, for the audience, any and all information that I get is in the public domain, different sources. It's flavored up with the experience that I've had, and I try to reflect what I learned from Dr. Ben, Dr. Clark, Professor Mackey, and all of our elders, the way they have brought the information to us. So that has given me a foundation to put together the presentation in such a way that I feel is most effective. Okay, so on the first page, what we're attempting to do is bring information that may not be present when you go on a news media or when you come into discussions in certain groups. So the first page is the picture that I like to present. And this picture is of a statue that was put in front of the Museum of Natural History many, many years ago. And then after this 10 years or so ago, when you had certain disturbances in the United States, the people who run the country decided to take down a lot of statues. But the reason that I keep repeating this is to illustrate that this statue, which has been taken down in the United States, New York City, in front of the Museum of Natural History, which is one of the official museums that the United States present to the world. This is what the message they want to present to the world of what the United States is about. And it's a picture of, it's a statue where there's a figure, a male figure, on the statue, on the horse, and that's supposed to be Theodore Roosevelt, one of the presidents of the United States. White man. We're always going to deal with whatever people call race or non-race, because we understand this. And on the statue, to our left and to Theodore Roosevelt's right, is a statue of a human being, a male, who's supposed to be representative of the indigenous people that was here when the Europeans came here. That's the message that I get. That doesn't mean that this particular statue represents the original people here, because we know when you look, any research you do on people around the world, cultures or anything, you can go on any search engine. What's the evidence of the oldest known people in India or China or the South Pacific? you will always come back to African-based people. And what I define as the African-based people is that nature or whatever produced this element. With the electromagnetic energy from the sun, you need melanin. Melanin is one of the chemicals in all living things, plants and animals, that has to deal with absorbing electromagnetic energy. So when people say, oh, why you always say the black person or the African that's the reality. You see it still to this day when you go to different parts. Your ancestors who were here for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, they're still there in the island of Taiwan. They're still there in China. They're still there all over. So it is a matter of us pushing blackness. And then on the statue, to our right and to Theodore Roosevelt's left, is a statue of another man who's supposed to represent the African. So the statue I read as white man on a horse, we run things, and look who's subordinate to us. The indigenous people and the African persons that are in this country. So I want you to keep that in mind. In discussion with some of the individuals that we have on this subject, it's a good reminder. They're letting you and the world know who's running the show. Okay, now, we have 8 pages. I'm going to tell you what's on the 8 pages, and then we're going in detail. Page 1 is going to deal with the what you call Russia or Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, and that Russia is now presently at war with an adjacent country called Ukraine and Western Europe. And then you ask yourself the question, as they say in the media here, what's the problem? Russia just decided to invade Ukraine, so let's examine that. Page number 2 is 2 pictures. The 2 pictures with the maps, and we'll go into a little detail, but I want to show you here. It's a picture of what is supposed to be the Belt and Road, ancient Belt and Road figuration. In all of the books, they always show the trade between China, comes across what is Asia, and it comes down to Northern Africa. So what I did was I added onto the map these dashed lines that run from India, what is now India, and also from what is China. The Silk Road was a trade route thousands of years ago between Asians and Africans. The Europeans didn't have a damn thing to do with it. They didn't make anything. They had nothing to trade. So I just wanted to bring that map to you. The Silk Road. You hear about the Chinese Belt Road, Silk Road. And then they give you pictures of China, and then it ends up someplace in Europe. The trade was between Africans and Asians. And it wasn't just through the land, it came through what is now they call the Red Sea and all of the eastern coast. That trade route from China to the eastern coast of Africa, that's going to be the most important trade globally in the next 10 or 15 years. Because most of the trade is going to be done between Asians and Africans. United States, Western Europe with the Europeans, they're not going to be in the picture. Number 3, there are 2 maps of China to show their population. And the reason that I'm using China is I'm going to use it to show how China, everybody's about China, how well developed they are, and how advanced they are, and it's a miracle. So I was listening, my wife and I was looking at a program, and one of the commentators is going to tell you about, right commentator, China's miracle. And he goes from 1945 and he jumps to today. What was China like between 1945 and now? They skipped the history. We're going to go over it. Okay? And here, these two maps we're going when we go to detail. The next page is another map of China. And the reason that I'm bringing China is because I want to use China as an example historically of how they now are one of the main countries that make things, that industrialize. Number page is 5. There is a documentary paper called Soviet-Chinese Relations from 1945, page 5, to 1970, Project Rus. So I'm citing that project, that documented material, and I'm going to present the material that I got from this so that you can then go further and do the research, and so you know where I'm getting it from. The documentation, you have to go and get as much of the documentation as you can. So this is going to be page 5, page 6, 5 and 6 are going to talk about the relationship between the Soviet Union, called Russia, and Big China. Page 7, we're going to deal with the 3 major trading groups today between Africa and Europe, Africa and China, and Africa and Africa. So these are put together to show you a picture of what has happened between China and Russia. Why? Because the same movement of development is now in place in Africa. What are you talking about? Given the size of Africa, given the natural resources of Africa, and given the population, the African continent is going to be the global center of trade and manufacturing, like it has been for thousands of years before we were knocked down by the Arabs and the Europeans. Okay, so those are the 7 pages, and we're going to go through these with an explanation. And presumably, we can finish these 7 to 8 pages in about half an hour. I'm going to talk about what's on the pages so that the individuals who do not get the documentation at least can hear it. Okay, so we're going to go officially on page 1. The Russia against the West. The West we call Western Europe and the United States. There's a war between Russia against Ukraine. Ukraine was, in its present form, was militarized, and the West, the United States and Western Europe, are supplying Ukraine to fight Russia. They want to bring down Russia. Why do they want to bring down Russia? Page 1 goes through some documented history of why they want to bring down Russia. What were the ethics? So we have 9 plus 5 items. So let's go through it. So what I attempted to do was to go through and review the history of what you call Russia now and those Western European countries. Number 1, French invasion of Russia, Napoleon, 1812 to 1812. So Napoleon attempted to go into Russia, to conquer Russia. Number two, the Crimean War, 1083, it's 1853 to 1856. Russia was fighting for the Ukraine, was fighting for Britain, was fighting for France, and the Ottoman Empire, which was Turkey. So basically, this is a quick list of the wars that were issued against Russia, and Russia is still fighting these wars. Why is it that there are these wars? We'll go through it. Number three, the Allied intervention in the Russian Civil War. There was World War I. There was a civil war between the Tsar and a group of Russians. You call them communists. They broke down in the Civil War. So World War I started in 1914 and it went to 1918. But because the communists and the monarch in Russia began to fight over a civil war, Russia had to pull out of World War I. So when Russia pulled out of World War I, the Allied intervention in Russia was from 1918 to 1925. They were there for 7 years. Who went into Russia against the Russians? United States, France, and Britain. The same people they're fighting now, they went in to Russia to overthrow. Number four, World War I. The Germans tried to break in to conquer Russia. You have to ask, what's in what you call Russia that the Europeans are trying to break in? Similar to, Russia has the similarity to Africa. Why did the Europeans go into Africa? Same reason they were pounding on Russia. Number five, Operation Pipe, 1939 to 1941. The Soviet Union the US, France were planning to attack and bomb the oil fields of Russia. Number six, World War II. The Germans tried to get into Russia again. Number seven, Planned Totality, 1945. The U.S. put together a plan for a nuclear attack on Russia to bomb 20 or 30 of their cities with nuclear weapons. The same way African people have been mistreated here. I'm not saying Russians are good or bad. We're going through the history of what Russia has encountered so you can better understand the Ukrainian-Russian war. Why the Ukrainian-Russian war? Because it shows that Russia has a superior military. Russia's military is the strongest right now in the world, stronger than the United States. And why is that important? Because the Sahel nations and the other nations other Africans are going to link up with Russia to get the necessary military and other assistance to get the United States and France off of their back. That's the importance of Russia and that the war we're having. Operation Unthinkable, 1941. U.S. and Britain were planning to attack Russia. Surprise attack from Russia and Germany. Number 9, Operation Drop Shot, 1949. The U.S. against the Soviet Union. The United States had a contingency plan for possible nuclear conventional war. They've been threatening Russia all this time. So that's the reason for bringing this to your attention. To show you who's been the problem on a global scale, whether it was against us Africans or against the Russians. It was the United States and the West. Russia is critical because they're the country right now that have that military force that you need. The First Lady of Sierra Leone in West Africa made a statement about the condition of her country and other African countries. She said, In order for you to have a society where you can take care of your people, you need two things. You need peace and you need electricity. What she's alluding to is you can't get Sierra Leone together because you have a certain number of your own people working against you. Then you have all these foreigners in on you. Can't get the peace. And without getting some source of energy, you can't industrialize the country. What is Dr. Lewis talking about? All of the conveniences you have now, think about it if you didn't have it. When I was in Jamaica with a medical group one time, they put us in 5-star hotels. Other time, they put us up in the mountains in outhouse. Do you think you would want to live that way? So when we talk about what people want, everybody wants something decent, food and stuff. And that is what the United States and Western Europe has deprived Africa of. Just like they were trying to do it to Russia. So all of this is connected. Now, on this side here, I want to go through the drug wars. So if you want to know what the problem with all these drugs in the global, let's see where it started from. Opium War, number one, 1839 to 1842, the United States and Europe and their cousins, the UK, they attacked China, the Qing dynasty, broke into China and started spreading the drugs. That's where that opium came from. Opium War number two, 1856, 1860, same thing. United States, France, and the United States and Britain, and then France jumped on it. Same group of people causing the same problem in Africa today. Number three, the Vietnam War. The Vietnam War was the third drug war. All this drugs flooding in. First, the first drug war, second drug war, you go back to the United States took Chinese, kidnapped them, brought them to the United States to work, to help build the country, and they brought the drugs. That's your source of your heroin. Then you have the fourth drug war in this United States. It's called the Afghan War, 2001 to 2021. United States was in Afghanistan. They took the agricultural lands of Afghanistan to grow poppy, plus whatever else they were stealing. So that Afghanistan war, they used that war to take at least $3 to $5 trillion of your tax money and put it in their pocket to grow the opium. When they got there, they said the opium production went up 20 times after the United States. That's the source of your heroin. And then when they finally got rid of the United States, the Afghan people now, what are they doing to those poppy fields? They shut them down. They're using the poppy fields to grow food, to industrialize. That's what the United States was there for. But now that the United States no longer have the poppy, what's the substitute? Fentanyl. They blame the Mexican, they blame the Chinese. As I was talking with a young person, I said, you can't have drug addiction if you don't have the drugs. Okay. And the sixth drug war is the Flexner Report. The Flexner Report was 1912 when Rockefeller, DuPont, and the rest of them got together, took Flexner and a few people, told them to analyze the way health was delivered in the United States. The way we know how to do it. The natural way. So Flexner came out and he said, he wrote it up, that all natural ways of health is abolished in the United States and Canada. Shut down all of the schools. And the new medicine is chemical company drugs. The drugs that you're taking are drugs. No better, no less than heroin. 2 Chinese wars. The Vietnamese war that brought it in the dead bodies. The Afghan war that used it. Then they pump the drugs in. These pharmaceutical drugs are just as bad as the other drugs. That's your drug war. We go on to page 3. Page 3 has 2 charts. The first chart shows the Silk Road. It's going from China over to Northern Africa. And it also, we added the routes here. The second map you see that's mine. Just a second. That's.
Did you say?
Just a second. Just give me a second. Let me shut it down. Okay, what was the question?
Flexman.
Pardon me?
Did you say from China to Africa was the Silk Road?
No, whenever they show you pictures of the Silk Road, they always show you coming out of China across Asia. And then they drop it down and you will see a picture where there's an implication that the end of it was to Europe. The Europeans didn't have anything of value to trade with the Asians. The silk trade was between Asians, Chinese and others, and Africans. The trade ended in what you now call Egypt. It went into up the so-called Red Sea to what you now have the whole east coast of Africa. So the trade was from China across the land, ended up in the North Africa, and China through the sea ended up with trade along the east coast. The Silk Road was a trade between Africans and Asians. Europeans didn't have a damn thing to do with it.
You said S-I-L-K, silk?
They always use the word Silk Road because of silk the Chinese make. So it's not giving you credit. So when you look at it, they're all European. Okay, that's the purpose of this. The second map below, we see where Africa is here? On this side, look at on page 2, you look at the second map. Okay, you see this map here? The map illustrates that here is Africa. Okay? What's north of Africa? Europe. And what is, in this case, east of Africa, all of Asia. Africa has always been the center of human trade and activity between Africans and Asians. That's what this is telling you. Africa is in the most strategic position globally. Okay. Let's go on to page 3. Page 3 has a map, and it's a map of what is now Big China. Okay? That's Big China we know today. Big China was put together just like the United States was put together. You populate an area, and then you go out and you bring other areas under your physical control. The United States starts 13 colonies, then they got the Northeast, then they drove the indigenous people out, and they took all of the South, and then they drove the indigenous people out, and they went to thing, and then they put the United States together. What you call United was put together by the gun. Okay, that's the purpose of this. So this map illustrates, so this is Big China. You see, all of this is now Big China. The map below shows you, in this China, you see the cutoff here? Because this part of Big China that they took from the other Asians is mainly mountains and deserts. So most of the people who inhabit what you call China, Big China, inhabit the eastern third of China. Okay? And this, the second map, is just showing you another piece. So the white Chinese you call Han Chinese, they live in this eastern part of what you now call China, because that's where they live. But all of the 2/3 of the rest of what is now China were not China, wasn't the white Han Chinese. There were all kinds of different people, and there's at least 50 different indigenous people that live in this part of China because they took it over. Okay, that's the purpose of these two maps. Okay, let's go to number 5. What we're doing here is using China as an illustration of how countries are put together so that you will see what Africa is going to look like in the next 15 years. Because Africans don't have to go around stealing from other people. Nature gave it to them. Okay. Page 5 is another map. See, this is the map that you see of Big China. In the previous map, the white Chinese lived in the eastern third of here. The middle, in the western third of China, is non-white Chinese, non-white Han Chinese. Okay? They took it over. Now, why is it that they took it over? The same way the white man, you see resources and you take. This middle part of China, it's mountainous. It's called a Tibetan plateau. Massive mountains. So in this chart I wrote here that this part of, so cut China into 3 pieces. The eastern, where the white Chinese normally live. The central, which is mainly mountainous and non-white people there. And then you have the western third, which are all other types of Asian people living. China is 3 pieces, 1, 2, 3. After 1945, history is easy. If you put it together nice, but they don't talk about it, they confuse, they lie and stuff, it's easy to understand what's going on. So you take China in 3 pieces. There was a 1945, Japan was defeated, okay? Because Japan had invaded China and invaded Asia. After 1945, between 1945 and 49, 2 groups of Chinese were fighting each other. One was the communist Mao Zedong, backed by Russia, and the other one was Chiang Kai-shek, the nationalists, the capitalists. They fought or continued the Civil War from 1945 to 1949. In other words, this war between the so-called communists and the nationalists, the war had started a century ago, battling. But we're taking you up to World War II so that we can zero in. So, 1945, Japan was defeated. And at that point, the nationalists under Chiang Kai-shek, backed by the West, were fighting against Mao Zedong, the communists, backed by Russia. You understand the concept, right? When Japan was defeated, 1945 to 49, Mao Zedong, communists backed by Russia, and the Chiang Kai-shek, the nationalists, backed by the white people, they resumed their civil war. Out of that civil war, nationalist, the communist China was victorious. Why is 1949 important? Because at that point that the communists beat the nationalists, that's when Chiang Kai-shek moved over to Taiwan. Taiwan was a black nation. The history, they say, show the white Han Chinese only beginning to populate what is now Taiwan around 1800. Okay, so what you now have is 1949 as the date that communist China was officially a country. That's the importance of that date. As soon as the communists got control, what they did was they seized this strip of land called Inner Mongolia and brought it under China's rule. Got to understand here that the eastern third was white Chinese. Then they brought a big strip of the country called Inner Mongolia. Another group of people, they went in and conquered them and forced them to build Big China. Then, you see this area here, the Tibetan Plateau. It's a high mountainous. It hits the rain. This plateau, the Tibetan Plateau, is the source of almost all of the rivers that feeds all of the countries in Asia. So 1949, the Communist Chinese seized Inner Mongolia. In 1949, they seized the Tibetan Plateau. Why? Because they wanted to control the rivers. And then later, they will seize this western part called Zhejiang province, because there's massive amount of water. Now, the importance of this is rivers. You gotta have rivers. So that part of China where the white Chinese, the Han Chinese live, and that part, there were two main rivers, okay? Yellow and Yangtze. But when Mao Zedong and them had took over the country in 1949, they sent the military in to seize Tibet, was an independent country. And one of the rivers, why they seized Tibet? Because they now control the rivers. Okay? The Mekong River brings water to Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia. The Salween River supplies what used to be Burma and Thailand. The Bahamatu River supplies Bhutan. The Ganges supply the Nepal, India, and Pakistan. What it meant that when China seized the Tibetan Plateau, it controlled the water source to most of Asia. And in this left-hand side, let's just list why it's important to control these rivers. And that's part of what makes China what it is. You can't have a country without water.
But in the transportation and business too, that's why.
Well, let's just take, all I did was list some of the basic things that rivers give you. And that's why they took it. Atmosphere, it rains, you have a water cycle, you have flood control. Number two, habitat. Animals live there, plants live there, crops live there. Drinking water, wastewater, disposable. You got Egypt and most of the big civilizations, they popped up along the rivers. Niger River, the Nile River. Rivers are critically important. Climate, sediment, minerals. Number 5, agriculture, irrigation, erosion, deposition. Number 6, hydroelectric power. Number 7, transportation, shipping, ports, employment, political control. So Big China seized Inner Mongolia, for whatever it had to do with that. It seized Tibet, and it seized Zhejiang province. Okay. We're going to number 5. And 5. Then we get a little, I won't call it boring because I have to read this to you so that the audience would have. 5 and 6, we're going to read. Take about 10 minutes. It's the interaction of the Soviet Union, or what you call Russia, with Big China in 1949. You cannot understand the industrialization of Big China now, why Big China is all of this, without understanding how the place was put together, and that's the reason behind it. So that when you look at areas, and you want to know, well, why is Africa going to be this and that? Well, look, Africa is one of the only areas right now that have a positive birth rate. Africa's the only continent that got everything in it. Europe has nothing in it. Russia is the only other country outside of Africa that has any type of things that people need. So Africa has a positive birth rate, has all of the natural resources you want. And then at the end, we will see it. So 5 and 6, we're going to read about 15 minutes. 7 and 8 takes about 7 to 8 minutes. It's explanation. So that's why we're doing it this way. So we want to say, well, how the Big China, in 8 you will see what makes Big China. You make it. So we go in 5 and 6, we're going to read the history that's in these documents that I went and researched. The document is Soviet-Chinese relation, 1945 to 1970, Project Muse. So you want to see what role did Russia play in industrializing China. The same role that the African countries, the Sahel countries, are using to develop. Same thing that this country used to develop. This country is very advanced. They didn't get a highway system until 1955. Okay, so let's see what the Soviet Union did. Russia, from this document, if this is truly in this document, you would have had a China. Because the United States and them would have gone in on them. So I'm going to sit down, I'm going to read this. Page 5. Soviet-Chinese relation, 1945 to 1970. Project Muse. Japan war ends in 1945. Chinese Civil War, 1949 to 45 to 49. People's Republic of China was victorious. The Soviet Union was the first country to recognize them. The People's Republic of China as an independent nation. They established diplomatic relations. 1949, they signed a treaty of friendship, alliance, mutual assistance based upon territorial integrity, national sovereignty, non-interference in internal affairs. Why is that important? Because that's exactly what the United States and the Europeans are doing every single day. Interfering in your internal affairs, making coups, will not leave you alone. And that's what these non-white countries in BRICS are reestablishing that. You hear what they said? I recognize you. I'm going to help you. I'm going to stay out of your business. The Soviet Union extended $300 million US. I don't know how many billions that would be today, to reconstruction of the national economy at 1% interest. How much is your credit card? How much did the IMF and World Bank
19,
put you on it? 20? And if you don't pay, they're going to bomb your ass. Excuse the language. To show you how. Okay, let's go on. The Soviet Union extended $300 million US with 1% interest. They assisted building. Now we begin to understand what they did. And you're going to understand the same thing that the African nations going. I just want to remind you, when we talk about technology transfer, well, how is China now, how is Russia now able to industrialize China in 1945. Where did they get the industrial skill? It was gotten out of the European countries, the British, the French, the Germans. They went into Russia and they did business with Russia. They industrialized an industry to them. What industry did they transfer? The Europeans transferred to Russia. That Russia transferred to China. Where did the European get? Okay. Iron. Africans have been making iron for years. Copper. All kind of metallurgy. Gold, glass. Build some of the best, most fancy things. So when it comes to transfer, you say China is bringing to Africa technology. Yeah, it was technology brought there by, when we go here, the Europeans and Japan brought some of that technology to China. Where did China get the technology? From Russia. Where did Russia get it from? The Western European. Where did the United States and Europe get the technology of gold processing, glass, cement, everything that you call technology? Go back into the Egyptian Museum or go any place else. Africans gave it to the world. So China is not doing you a favor. They're bringing you back to a technology that your ancestors had done a long time ago. You know all those inventions Africans here made with the railroad and the switches and stuff? China don't jump up. You can't talk about China's industrialization and you're going to start it. You're going to eliminate 1950 to here. Doesn't make sense. You can't do it. So they're not bringing a damn thing to Africa. The Africans said, they have their book, they said, we knew what we wanted to do, to build railroads and everything, we got it. The reason that China is important because the Chinese are the first one in recent history that's willing to help us industrialize. Why? Because everything that China needs to exist comes out of Africa. And you will see that on page 7 or 8. So they're not bringing anything to you. You civilize the world. So the Africans said it's because the Europeans have been hindering us and China is now willing to help us industrialize. Okay, why? The Europeans came and they stole from you. The Chinese are now trading with Africa. But they can't steal it. They can't steal what they want. I'm asking the question. If the Chinese could do to Africa what the Europeans did to steal it, why pay for it? So that's something for you to think about. So the Chinese know that the Africans, it's too late to come and steal from the Africans, like the United States does and the Europeans do. So if you want what you need from Africa, you got to do something. You got to build roads. You got to do transfer technology. I'm going to jump ahead a little bit to show you. There is, what's this electronic company, Huawei. Huawei is in Burkina Faso. Burkina Faso, they're all the 3 countries together, but there are at least 10 countries that said they will militarily intervene to protect Burkina Faso and those nations. At the rate Burkina Faso is going, they ain't gonna need any. Because there's a possibility there's gonna be a transfer of nuclear energy. When you put a nuclear plant into a country for medical and agriculture, what comes automatically? Military. So they have signed some agreements, Burkina Faso and Russia, for these nuclear plants. And it appears that one of the agreements is they're going to train the Africans. If Russia builds the nuclear plant, they're going to come in and build it, and the Africans are going to help build it, and they're going back to the school. So by the time that nuclear plant is built in Burkina Faso, Africa will be left with the technology to build the next plant. And once when you know how to refine and get everything for uranium, uranium comes out of the ground. And it's an isotope. It's two very close. So it's a whole period of purifying the uranium from the sand. If you purify the uranium from up to 0% to 20%, that's what you need for medicine and agriculture. If you want a bomb, you concentrate it up to 90%. So once when you have the nuclear plant, the nuclear facility, the technology, you can make a bomb. So if Russia goes into Burkina Faso and put in that nuclear plant and they keep their agreement, Burkina Faso in 2 or 3 years, and then Russia hinted to it, the threat of you having the technology for medicine and agriculture, you can easily refine it up to 90%. And when you refine it 90%, maybe your enemy, the French or the US, gonna think twice, okay, about running the whoop ticket on you. So that's what's potentially coming. I didn't say it was here, but they're talking. And Russia already hinted to it. He said, Russia says their nuclear posture is they don't use nuclear weapons. But if their existence is at stake, they're taking you out. And so the hint was, with the Burkina Faso and others, if you have that nuclear capability, you have trained people who could easily enrich the uranium up to 90. If Gaddafi had that, do you think they would have gone in against him?
No.
So there are a lot of things that's coming. Okay, so I want to emphasize to you that there's no country industrializing Africa. They're bringing back what you gave the world. And it's in the museum, it's all over. Okay, so I didn't want to get that there about where did Russia get it from. The Europeans had come and industrialized Russia for profit, and where did they get it from? All the inventions that your ancestors made here. They took you from Africa for your ability to grow food and your ability to build. They've been in Africa. They saw all of the building stuff. These are master builders. They built the damn country. They built Europe. So Africans, so they're not bringing anything back to you that you didn't give to the world. Okay, we went through that. So we ain't got no handouts. Now, this is what they said from this paper. We'll just move it. I'll stop editorializing. They assisted in building large industrial enterprises, 1950 to 1970. This is what the document said. There's no United States. Don't mean the damn thing. Russia brought it to a point to bring them those things they needed. The Chinese were able to, smelt steel, and it's not like they didn't have technology. It all come out of Africa, and it's all seen all through Egypt and Sudan and everything. Okay. They assisted in building 5 large industrial enterprises. They will prospect and survey to extract and process non-ferrous and rare metals. They prospect, survey, and extract oil, gas, related petroleum products, and refineries. Rubber production started in 1952. Automobile repair plants. Now we're on page 5 on this side. Okay? Operate airline companies with the Chinese. 30-year agreement for joint equal operations and corporations. Train and qualify technicians, administration, establish schools, courts, economic construction, techniques, higher education training, program, money, equipment, develop natural resources, food, and food insecurity. Established companies. Now we're on page 5. We're coming down here. USR export to People's Republic of China gasoline, kerosene, lubrication, oil, miscellaneous machines, transportation, equipment, fuel, cotton, raw materials for reconstruction of the economy, telegraph, telephone, communication, produce, coal, pig iron, steel, industrialization, collaboration, economics, science, culture, and military. We page 6. We're winding down. Railroad, commuter, passenger, baggage, freight, broad military collaboration, 1952, help national security. There was in 1951, there was a trade embargo on China by the United States, NATO, Japan, Australia, Latin American countries. The countries formed these countries, that same embargo the United States put on them. These countries formed those United States and Britain, and they pulled Japan and all of them together. These United States and Britain formed a committee to monitor what came in and out of China. They monitor, observe exports of goods and strategic purchases for the People's Republic to block the People's Republic from buying material, machine, equipment, and embargo, trying to crash the country. USSR assisted People's Republic. We're on page 6 on the left-hand side. Assistant in the material used to
break the embargo.
To break the embargo, okay. USSR supplied gold to support the People's Republic of China's economy, stabilizing the financial position of China. They support heavy industry, petroleum, pig iron, electric power, machine building, light industry, coal, large shipment, heavy industrial equipment, agriculture. The United States would have crushed China at this point because China was lucky enough to have Russia. The same way these Sahel nations are lucky enough to be able to go to a powerful country like Russia and China, Turkey, Iran, to go to these countries. We need help. And it is the military, it's the help that Russia, China, Turkey, Iran, North Korea, the African, 1 or 2 African countries, one that I can't think of with who, it'll come to me. So that's how Burkina Faso is able to stand. You cannot do anything if you're in chaos, if you don't have security. So China was lucky for Russia to be there, and the Sahel nations are lucky for the world to have changed so that you have Russia and China to negate the United States' interference. The Russians saying, I'll give a little tidbit for you. I'll give these Africans the technology to make a bomb. Then you see what you're going to do. Okay, we winding down on 6. Top of the line, survive. Okay, number 6, this column. Support heavy industry, petroleum, pig iron, electric power, machine building, light industry, coal, large shipment, heavy duty equipment. Okay, for restoration of their railroad, hydroelectric. That's why the rivers are important. Hydroelectric energy, construction of large rivers on the hydroelectric. People's Republic backed by USSR against United States occupation of Taiwan. 6, second column, we wind it down. The Russians provided air cover for Shanghai's East China Industrial Center from the U.S. and Nationalist China. They're trying to bomb it. They protected them. Russia, USSR, Soviet Union protected Manchuria Industrial Center in northeast China. They gave China the necessary material and the support to survive even as a damn country. Korean War, they back the Chinese in the Korean War and the Vietnamese War. Russia and China are in a military alliance. We finish there, we're going to wind up to Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. They're in the military alliance. So if you fight Russia, you're going to have to deal with China, you're going to have to deal with Iran, you're going to have to deal with North Korea. We're going to go to page 7 and 8, then we'll break in question and answers, we go from there. 7, page 7, there's only 2 pages left, 7 and 8. The point is to give you enough material for question and answers to think and to think about how things are going. Number 7, the continent of Africa has 3 major trading directions. Africa, the top here, does most of the number 1 trading partner with African countries is Europe. Let's see what Africa ships to Europe and what Europe sends back. Africa supplies to Europe gas, coal, oil, wood, things that make heat for you to industrialize, fertilizer, food, minerals, and uranium. Africa has 65% of the arable land. They grow more food than anybody else. But you kind of lie about Africa. Africa is a shithole according to Trump because he can't let you know what is there and what is coming. Okay. And so we ship these raw materials to Europe, then Europe manufactures them and value added. They make furniture and everything else. Now Africa has all of what you need in the relationship between Europe and Africa, that Africa buys refined things from them. Now what happens if you cut off all that, everything going to Europe? What is it that Africans will be doing that the Europeans are doing? The Europeans now are manufacturing things that Africa needs. What's going to happen when Africa industrializes and they no longer have to buy a damn thing manufactured by Europe? What's going to happen to Europe? Anybody have a guess? They're going to collapse. They're collapsing now because they can't get Russian gas. They can't get the uranium from Nigeria. They can't steal the gold. So that relationship between Africa, we supply raw material, we're sustaining them, and then the only thing they have to offer is to manufacture. That's why they don't want you to get manufacturing, because then you will eliminate them. They know what the deal is. China, same situation. Number 2, the second biggest trading partner with Africa is China. Same thing. China gets gas, coal, oil, wood, fertilizer, food, minerals, and stuff. Remember, if you go back to the chart, the map of China, even with them, they took the Tibetan plateau. That gave them the rivers. And they took Zhejiang province. That gave them the oil. China can't feed itself on its own. If you look at you look at China and this map here, this is where they live. They can't feed themselves. So without the food of Africa, China's gone. Without the minerals from Africa, the cobalt and the nickel, they ain't industrializing anything. China needs oil. It gets it from Russia. It gets it from primarily from Russia, Iran, some of Saudi Arabia, and the rest from Africa. But if you were to cut off all your exports to China, China wouldn't be able to make a damn thing. So that's China's massive industry. I'm not taking anything away from China. I want to put this in perspective. Without the cobalt and nickel, etc., the raw the minerals and stuff, you ain't making nothing. Africa has always been the engine of world trade. They feed and sustain Europe. That's why they went in. In Asia, it's the same way. After World War I and World War II, where did the copper, the iron, the nickel and cobalt come from to rebuild Europe? The Europeans don't have it. U.S. don't have it. Asians don't have it. Where did the copper and the aluminum, where did they get that to rebuild Japan? Africa. Where did they get that? The white people, United States, where did they get that to rebuild South Korea? To build Japan, to build Taiwan, Europe, and the United States. It all came out of Africa. So, if you're planning, they know, the historians and the people in this country, Europe, they know what's coming. People asked me one time, we just happened to be on the radio, was there going to be a coup? What are you talking about, a coup? A coup was used to be them coups when the prince. Okay, we'll go into that. So I want us to understand that as Africa industrializes, they will not have to depend upon Europe to make a damn thing. The only thing that Europeans have been surviving on the fact that they're able to sell us finished goods, profit, and steal. That's all. Before we go to the last one, we'll take the coup in Nigeria. We don't have a map, but Nigeria is a country in Africa. It has an extensive border with, what's the big guy? Nigeria. Same people. They went, they split it, and the French took, and they made it Nigeria. The British took, and they made it Nigeria. Let us finish out page 8, and then we do question and answer and comment. There'll be enough. There's enough here for you to see what's coming. Number 8. So now we know, according to the document, that the historian there would be no China as you know it. And where did big China get the weapons to take into Mongolia? From Russia. Where did they take the Tibetan plateau? Tibet is not well armed. And where did they get the Zhejiang? By the gun. So China, it appears, the formative years, if it wasn't for Soviet Union, you may not have the China as you know it today. Later on, we can go through the fact Chinese didn't have doctors or put doctors and all that other stuff. So if you think you're only looking at China now, okay. We're going to read the last one and it kind of sums it up. Question. I ask a question because if I make a statement and somebody said, oh, you made a statement, you got to prove it. I don't have to prove anything. I'll tell you, I'm taking it out of what's in the public domain, so you can't say I got something secret. And I'm only repeating what's in the public domain, so you check it out. The same thing when we did the what you call this, talk on the COVID. They can't say that Dr. Lewis is lying, because I told you I got the 24-page printout only for doctors. And I took the printout and cut it up and got 4 pages where they told you, right from your government,
Knock that down quick, baby.
right from your government and the big pharmaceutical who's killing you, they said it's experimental. We don't know what the hell is. They know what they're going to do. They knew it was going to damage your what you call it, DNA. Because once you make that
Cold word. Use
whatever
cold
they,
words.
huh?
Use cold words.
Okay. So everything I read came out of their literature. I told you, right from here. I give you, all I did was paste it together and give you what they said. I didn't originate any of it. And it said that they didn't know what, they don't know the full, they have an idea, but they had to do the mass experiment to do it. What's the name of it? Israel and Japan paid the heaviest price. They work with United States and, you know, just like Europe. So, they didn't know what it was going to really do. It was experimental. Then they told you it's against the Nuremberg law they put up after that, about you supposed to be able to be given the right to refuse an experimental drug. They told you it was against the Constitution. They told you it should not be used for anybody under 18 and no pregnant women. They do what the hell they want.
They're giving it to babies.
They're giving it to any damn body. What you want to do about it? What did Ray told us about our friend. What's his name? The guy that runs everything? No, the other one. You told me.
Soros.
Who?
Soros.
Yeah. They do what they want. This is a colony. These are Nazis. Their behavior is Nazi. You see the experiment. You see they're killing all these people. In Israel, the United States did the same thing to the indigenous people here. It killed us by the tens of millions in Africa.
And America.
They killed by the million. Australia, they killed the population down. They took down 80 or 90% of the population of Vanuatu. They took Australia. They took Canada. You got genocide. Now, I didn't say it, but some people hope that if it's true that the white population is only 4% and they're not reproducing, so maybe the next 30, 40, or 50 years, I'm going to be here. The next 30 or 40 or 50 years, we won't have to deal with them. Genetically, and by that time, Russia is already stronger than the United States. So we don't have to, Africa will become militarily stronger than Europe. So you won't have that problem anymore. Ain't nobody going into Africa again. So let's ask the question. So now we know it appears, or at least we presented, that Russia took China over the hump. Now, from 1970, the United States and Europe went to, the Chinese and said, look, let's break away from Russia. They were tight. So to split Russia and China, the West, they made a deal. It was not only the split, but it is a deal. So where did China get all this industrial, the fine tuning? So I'm asking the question in 8 in the last sheet. 1970 to present. So it's like you want your house built, like in the South. You built, the community got together and built the houses. So you got your people together to dig the foundation, the roof, everything is there. It's the fine tuning, the plastering, and the fine stuff. So Russia appears that Russia put China in a position to be able to be on the world stage to defend itself, militarily and in all other kind of ways. So where did all this technology comes in? So United States and them go in, and let's read the last 8. 1970 to present. Europe, US, Japan transferred industrial and technology facilities into the People Republic of China for cheap labor and markets. That's how they did it. The U.S. corporations transferred the technology into China to increase their profits. Did the Congress of the United States and the President of the United States participate in the technology transfer? You damn right. They got theirs. Did the deindustrialization of the United States of America cause the massive hardship to the American people? Question and answer. We take a break and then we got plenty to talk about. We got enough material. So I did what I was trying to do with the information and the maps and stuff is to give you ability to look at China from 1945 to now. Not China, all of a sudden, and they become this. No, there was a reason. Russia kept pushing them to get started, and then the Europeans and Japanese and Americans, they gave the icing on the cake. China said, I'll take all of it. But when you come in, I'll let you come in, you're going to get cheap labor and you will get access to the market. You're doing technology transfer. Yeah, you're not coming in for nothing. Same thing Angola did when they had the big oil 30 years ago. They allowed 6 or 7 different oil companies to come and drill for oil. I am going to set the parameters for you to drill this oil. And one of the main parameters, you're going to train, and when you got a certain amount of oil, we're going to be left with the technology where we don't need you. And any of you who don't like it can go to hell because they got 6 or 7. So one company act up, get out. So that you see. So that's the formal end of the presentation. Then we do the question and answers, refine and disprove or whatever it is. So we wanted to get a quick one, okay?
All right, ladies and gentlemen, give Dr. Great big hand. We're going to come out now. Question and answer, anything you want to ask Dr. Lewis. The first one is coming from the Zoom audience. Anybody from Zoom want to ask Doc a question? Let it rip. Don't wait till later, Zoom audience. Zoom audience, you want to say anything? Going once, going twice. That's a wrap with Zoom. Anybody from the floor? Brother Rajeen. Speak a little loud so everybody can hear, Raj.
What percentage of the white Chinese in the eastern part of China do you estimate is around in relation to the rest of China?
I can't answer the question. To answer that question, we can get the statistics from the Chinese government. They have the breakdown. For instance, they say that in Taiwan, about the white Chinese in Taiwan, about 90%. And you got about 10 there. I don't know, I know the Chinese government officially recognized at least 55 different distinct groups, non-Chinese. But I don't know the breakdown of that 1.4 billion. I don't know what percentage of that is the white Chinese. But that you can check. I didn't go that way because I just wanted to build, to see a broad picture. You see, look, why is Huawei, is that Huawei I'm saying it right? Mm-hmm. They're working with Burkina Faso, small country, small in terms of population, about 40, 50 million. Maybe the size of New York State. Because that whole Sahel nation across those Senegal, Mauritania, Mali, Burkina Faso, Chad, Niger, Sudan, and that. They're almost 40% of the size of the United States. This is a massive country. I forgot what I was thinking of. Huawei. They just made a deal with Burkina Faso. They want to build the factory. Take them 5 years to build a state-of-the-art factory to make what Huawei makes. Technology transfer. They said they're going to train 5,000, and a certain number of others will go to Huawei, and after 5 years, the Africans will be able to make the technology. And they're wiring, when you run the wire for internet, right? Why? Why this little country? Why aren't you putting this Huawei in Russia? Not Russia, in Germany? Why aren't you putting it in Czechoslovakia?
Because you want to spot.
Why does Huawei make no conditions? You're going to build a massive factory where they will have the technology, train 5,000, and then why?
Because
What does Huawei know? Tell me.
I'm figuring not only in 5 years they'll be able to establish and make children and stay there.
Let me ask you a question. If they use these figures that they put out, they killed down tens of millions of us in Africa. I can't say you what Richard Pryor told you what you've been doing to bring that population back up. Okay? You know what I'm talking about. They say 5% of the world's population is white and it's negative. All European countries are negative birth rate. Most of the Asian countries are negative birth rate. They even say China is negative birth rate. The only country where you got is India, because it's still you. Africa, they say, has 1.5 billion people, however they count. They say by the year 2050, 1/3 of all human beings on earth will be in Africa. What is Huawei looking at? Where's the market going to be? Is Huawei going to be able to sell anything in Europe? It's dying. Is it going to sell anything in the United States? It's dying. Where is the market going to be? Africa.
They're trying to make babies in Africa.
They're putting in, they're getting their foot in now.
That's right.
They say the internet, the 3 leading countries, the 4 leading countries of the population that's on internet. China is number 1, Europe is number 2, and they say Africa is number 3. And the United States is way back. So your people already there. They're building the city. So Huawei know what's coming. They know they know what. If you don't work with Africa, you're not gonna make it. Everything Huawei puts together with its thing come from Africa. So they're putting themselves in place now. Russia. Why is Russia going to produce a nuclear? The Prime Minister Lavrov came to Russia. In fact, Traore and Burkina Faso for reestablishing the mission in opening Africa up to them. So, what is Russia doing? They said, shit, are you kidding? They got everything we need. Got a nuclear plant, you want a nuclear plant? You want the latest damn electricity? Military? So Russia knows anybody who understands what's coming. Africa in 25 years or so, they're going to pass China. They're already industrial. Ethiopia is industrializing. Egypt is industrializing. Africa is going to be more industrialized than China. You see that thing here? This chart here. In 10 years, at the rate Africa Africans are industrializing, like Burkina Faso said, they're not sending out their shea butter. They're keeping it in. They've got a shea butter factory. So now that they are using the shea butter, they're keeping it in and value added. Now they're selling the shea butter to Europe, not getting the raw shea butter. They will pay. So in other words, Africa is industrializing. When Africa industrializes to a certain point, there's no reason for them to do any trade with Europe. There's nothing that they get from Europe right now is because Europe, they get industrial things.
Like what? What do they get?
Cars, furniture, different things, household.
They get it from Europe?
Yeah, manufacturing. Much of when you go to African country, much of what is made, things made, are not made in Africa. It's only because you're not industrializing. Okay? So just 1 second. So, Runway knows. They know what's coming. So they want to get on ground. What you call this thing from the satellite? GPS. China's GPS is bigger than US GPS. China helped Russia produce their GPS. Now China is expanding their GPS, and most of the relay stations are in Africa. They know where, if you want to have 1.5 or 6, what's your question?
Any other question?
What's your definition of industrialized?
I'm not qualified to give you an answer. I'm not qualified to give you an answer on that because different companies might have other criteria. Okay, let me give you an example. Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger. When the French was there, the French, the US, okay, I'll take, what's the name of this? Niger. Niger had a president called Bassoum. When they overthrew Bassoum in Niger, he was giving the uranium to France for 80 cents a kilo. The world market was $200 a kilo. So what did he do? He cut France off, and I don't know the deal who he made it to. But who needs uranium? Iran, Turkey, and Russia. So if you're going to build a nuclear plant that's $1 billion, you don't go to the IMF. You make a barter agreement for Russia. How much uranium? Now they got a nuclear plant. That nuclear plant is going to provide electricity to put in any factory you want to. So Burkina Faso says, okay, we're going to process our tomatoes. Then we're going to process our shea butter. Industrialization is whatever your company wants to make your needs met. That's all industrialization is. Burkina Faso, what happened before they made these coups, 60 or 70% of the northern part of Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger was under the control of the jihadists. What were the jihadists doing with the English, the French? Stealing your gold. So when they make the coup, they armed themselves. They were able to recover most of the 3 Sahel nations. The figures they give, they got about 80–85%. They took the land back. And all of those gold mines, the official record, where did they get it from? Is that $30 billion that they can detect is smuggled out of Africa. That's $30 billion worth of gold taken from the 3 Sahel nations. So when those Sahel nations went to Russia to get their weapons, to push back the jihadists, because they now have airplanes, they have helicopters, they have the drones, they got satellites. Now Algeria is going to work with them. They're going to wipe out the jihadists that was put there by the United States and the European Union. They use the jihadists against Russia in the two Chechen wars to destabilize Russia. They used the jihadists to work against Russia when they were in Afghanistan. They used the jihadists to attack Syria. They used the jihadists to knock off Gaddafi. And then when they knock off Gaddafi, they put the jihadists there to destabilize you. So once when you could contain the jihadists in the mission, they told us the history. We knew, but they told us in one of the three things. He says that the French came to these group of Africans who've been traveling nomads around Africa for years. You don't want to be governed by these black people. We will get your nation. So we know where the jihadists come from. And the reason for the jihadists is to keep these countries destabilized and to steal their gold. Now these countries are industrializing. The first industry they put in, they're refining all their gold. That's one industry you want to put in. They're now refining their own uranium. They're refining lithium. So what it is, industrialization, the way I'm observing, is they are putting in industries. Burkina Faso now has banned all railroad. They don't buy any railroad cars or anything from anybody. They now have the factory in where they make their own rails and stuff. So they said, look, we're gonna make our own railroads. Industrialize. We don't buy nothing. We're gonna refine our own gold. That's industrialization. We're gonna refine our uranium. That's industrialization. We're gonna work with Russia and the rest of them to put in the nuclear plant. Industrialization is whatever you decide that your country wants to provide for the needs of your country with what you got. It's as simple as that.
It's a movement from manufacturing, a movement from farming to manufacturing. It's not a reliance on agrarian culture. It's a combination of utilizing agrarian culture and manufacturing goods and building technology. It's a basic definition.
You go with the evidence of China. China was a rural society, agriculture, up to the 70s, even to the 80s. It wasn't until they started getting the machines and stuff to be industrialized. The same way China got it, the Africans are going to get it. So Burkina Faso have decided, well, we're going to get military, we're going to secure our country, we're going to industrialize that, we're going to refine our own gold, refine everything. That's industrialization. Now they got a factory to produce their own railroad cars. So it's going to come a time in its development, give it 10 or 15 years, when they won't have to buy one damn thing from the Europeans. Why? When you can make it. China, Russia, Saudi Arabia, not Saudi Arabia, Russia, Iran, all of these countries see this fabulous wealth. Burkina Faso is going to have industrial base in 5 years. Building, they already building. Why? Because they got something to trade. The United States, I just heard a report, you know that bridge in Baltimore that come down? If you look very closely at that bridge, there's supposed to be some of these blocks to protect the base. They weren't there. Gone. When you see bridges. Not only that, the guy says, they say that Russia has about one railroad, what you call when the railway come off? Derailment. About a year. They say United States has got 3 railroad derailments a day. They said the railroad system in this country at that rate is going to become non-functional. They said the chances that that bridge is never going to be built. You have to industrialize to the point that you can't even repair your own stuff. They ask the Chinese to repair that. So you let your mind grow. I tell you one thing, while they say, look, I ain't got no problem. In Burkina Faso, the rate they're going to be able to build their own, all that electronic. Everybody's coming in and say, I want a piece of the action. So they ain't got no problem with the industrialization. The industrialization is continuing at this point. They said Germany was number 4 industrially before this war. They're 6 or 7. Why? Because they can't keep the industrialization going because they lost the cheap oil gas from Russia, number 1. They lost the minerals that they needed to make themselves the number 4 industrial country. Another reason is they shut down their nuclear plant. When Niger cut off the uranium from France, France was using the uranium from Niger to power 1/3 of Europe. So Europe is going like this because it was Russian gas, Russian minerals, African gas, and African minerals was keeping Europe industrialized. What's this, Volkswagen, I think? The largest company? For almost 100 years, they went through World War I and II, they shut him down. That's called deindustrialization. Ghana and the rest of the country said, we don't make cars. Any and everybody is working. Burkina Faso is going to work with Iran. They're going to help them. See, what the Africans say, we'll feed you. We'll give you natural resources, but we're going to get something out of it. China knows that in order for them to continue to get what they need, you're going to have to industrialize. So I'm not the person to say what you call industry. If you were to go to the United States, you can't find, this is no longer an industrialized country. It's finished. Got no steel mills, glass mills. Can't repair a damn thing. This country is deindustrialized. Whatever that means, you go and talk to all your white.
No factories.
We're what?
There's no factories here. Used to-
What do you think?
What are we then?
There used to be
I
factories
know.
here.
International technology, what are we then?
No, what I'm saying is, United States and Western Europe,
Economy.
that's right, United States and Western Europe are in the process of deindustrializing. What does it mean? You make a list of what industry, glass, copper, make a whole list of all the things that you need to make things. The United States don't make them anymore. Burkina Faso is going to make them. Mali is going to make them. They're the ones who are going to make them. That's the best I can tell you about the industrial. We're looking at processes. We're not looking at whether or not Burkina Faso doesn't have this or just. You're looking at what is the world going to look like in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. If Europe is already in a depression, we can't make anything because the Africans. Okay, this guy from South Africa, he's the so-called richest guy. He want to make what you call these cars? Electric cars.
Elon Musk.
Half of the electric cars that this guy makes up of China, his name is made in China. Musk went around the world and Zimbabwe and African countries said, we no longer are going to give you raw material. What is it, the metal?
Iron.
Not iron, I can't think of it. What is the metal? Lithium.
Lithium for the battery.
Like a battery.
South Africa, Zimbabwe, and the rest of them said, we're not giving you, we're going to refine the lithium. So Europe ain't refining no more lithium because that's one of the problems this guy's having. Because he thought he was going to buy it more, and these countries said, no more, you ain't getting it more, we're going to industrialize. How long does it take to put factories in? It don't take no time to put factories in. Broadway is going to put in a state-of-the-art factory, better than whatever's here, and going to electrify because they know that Africa is going to have 2 billion people, not 1.42 billion. They know where the market is. They know where the resources are coming from. So industrialization is occurring in Africa while the United States and Europe are deindustrialized. Even the Asian countries are going to be deindustrialized because a friend of mine, an elder, said, shut Africa down. Don't let a damn thing come out. And you see how how far the world's going to go without African anything. So the Africans in that's now saying, we don't need to buy industrial products from Europe. We will. Africa has always been the most industrialized country in the world, continent. So the process is in on industrialization.
What country would you say in Africa is industrialized?
Pardon me?
What country in Africa would you say is industrialized?
They all are.
Really?
In their own way, they all are industrialized. You want to go and look at what the ports they're redoing, 19 ports on the east coast of Africa, state of the art. The United States, shit, it's crumbling. 19 ports, they're redoing all of them. Why? Because they know the big trade is coming between Africa and Asia. They're not building up the ports on the western part of Africa. 19 ports from what is the Sudan all the way to South Africa. They're redoing all the modern ports, all the railroads. So the industrialization, the preparation for the massive trade that's going to come with Africa, with Asia, the same way the Silk Road was a trade between China and Asia with East Africa. But East Africa always, things that came in from Egypt went down to Sudan, so whatever came in, they mixed. So right now, you have 19, 20 or 21 ports, all from Sudan, all to South Africa. They're modernizing it. They're not modernizing the western ports on West Africa. United States ports are crumbling. United States ain't even going to be in the game. So,
Any other questions?
so that's, you see, when we're looking only at a big picture. We're not looking at all this. Look, United States, we're looking into the future. And when the United States has to ask China to repair the Golden Gate Bridge, the ball game is over. I'm not anti-US. Looking at what is happening. Europe is dying because they're not getting cheap Russian oil and gas. They're not getting the minerals from Russia. And the Africans are cutting down. They're not getting the lithium. They're not sitting, each African country is now saying, look, we don't have to, we can do this. Burkina Faso could tell the United States and, what's the name, France, go to hell. Come on in, we're waiting for you. Do Europe want a full-scale cut-off of natural resources from Africa? Africans can collapse the damn place. They're already collapsing. You want to collapse the United States? Stop trading with the United States. The wealth of Europe and America has always been based on theft. You can't steal like you can. So people are industrializing. I'm looking towards 5 years. I'm looking towards 10 years. I'm looking towards what they're doing. Y'all can play with the stock market all you want, do whatever you want to do. Everybody do what they do. I'm going with what is solid. I'm seeing where the population is. It has nothing to do with United States or Europe as historical.
Next question.
Nobody.
Why the push for nuclear energy? Since it's kind of a dangerous proposition, instead of working their way to solar energy. I mean,
What the Sahel nations are doing, they're using all of it. I understand what you're saying. There's nuclear waste. That's number one. These Sahel nations in Africa, they're getting solar panels, solar farms. That's one. They're getting the wind. The Niger River is one of the biggest rivers in Africa in the world. They're damming up the thing. So they're not just, they just finished off a couple of hydroelectric. They're getting massive solar panel farms. They're getting wind. And so they say, we get water, we have wind, we have solar. Let's add a little bit of nuclear.
Oh, okay. So,
I didn't say whether it was good or bad. They say they have nuclear plants that can use another mineral similar to uranium that doesn't produce as much waste.
what is
I
that?
don't know, I forgot the name, I'll look it back up again. They're variation. So that's what Mali, Burkina Faso are doing. They just finished hydroelectric dams, plenty of water. They're getting massive wind farms. They're getting solar that, and they want to add nuclear. Now you look at Germany. Germany is dropped from 3 or 4 to 7. They're deindustrializing. I didn't say it. Germans are saying when Volkswagen is packing up and leaving. You can't run an industrial, Western Europe and the United States cannot run an industrial country without oil. 20% of your electricity is uranium. Most of the refined uranium comes from Russia. Russia said, I'll make some money off the United States. Fools, go argue with me, Russia, over some uranium. If I cut off the uranium to cut down your electrical capacity 20%, but you don't need electrical capacity, you ain't making anything. You want that to happen? Then you didn't see the infrastructure breaking down. So what I'm saying is, nobody's paying the United States any mind. What you gonna do to Burkina Faso? The coups are over. Russia said whether this war with the Ukraine, Russia's asking the United States, don't do this, don't do this. They ignore Russia. No, you ain't nothing. Okay. Russia said, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna arm all of your enemies. You see how you like it. I'm gonna give North Korea the ability to hit this place with a rocket and give them the nuclear missile they need. I'm gonna build up Iran to a powerhouse. I'm gonna give the Houthis 800 rockets that can destroy Europe. Israel's gone. I'm gonna arm Iraq. I'm gonna arm Ukraine, Iran. I'm going to arm Venezuela. I'm going to arm Cuba. See how you like it when you do this. That's one of the things here. Russia and China said that they will come to the military aid of any country that's being attacked by the United States or the West. When they meet in Russia, in Kazan in October, it's an economic group. BRICS is an economic group. But what they're doing is they are now getting a UN. How are they going to resolve global things? They've been putting up with their own UN. Who's going to be in it? The rest of the world except for white folks. This thing is going with African Asian, not white people. So they're putting up what they call their UN. They're getting the BRICS Bank. That's that part of it. And the military arm is that Russia is arming a number of countries so that these countries don't have to worry about a military intervention by the United States.
Question.
Hey, all right. Zoom.
Say what let him say what he wants.
No, this is just we having a conversation, right?
Yeah, conversation, but it gotta be loud so that the people can hear.
Okay.
So we can hear.
I wanted to ask you, because you're speaking about the documents that you're talking about, and you say you're getting those documents from the public domain.
Yes.
What method do you use to sanitize those documents before you release them in the public domain?
Look, I don't have to sanitize anything. I see the information there, it's public, and I report, just like I said, I went through it, I pick out what I feel is relevant. I'm not lying, I'm not fabricating. Now you go back, whoever it is, you want to get more detail, you look it up. Look at the detail. I extracted the same thing, what happened with the documentation that I presented on the COVID that they took off the next day.
On the CO.
They didn't say that Dr. Lewis fabricated it. They didn't say that Dr. Lewis is twisted. They said, the government said that Dr. Lewis is not telling the people what the government wants them to hear. And all I told everybody ahead of time, I took the 24 pages that they sent me as a position, legal document, and I took
You can
4 pages out of it. I told everybody, this is what the government and this pharmaceutical company sent me as a position. I got no special document. And I told them that I'm taking 4 pages out that I felt illustrates the most important. I didn't change a damn thing there. And then I read it. So the government doesn't like the public to know what they said. They never said to me, Dr. Lewis, we're going to threaten your license. Dr. Lewis, we're going to arrest you. Dr. Lewis, you're doing this. That's why I did it. I know about, I've been doing this for years. I know how the government works. That's why I don't say anything that I forgot. I asked it as a question. I didn't say that the United States did it. I asked the question, who deindustrialized? Everybody knows it was the industry, the banks, Congress, and the president. I didn't fabricate that. That's what I said. I told you exactly where I got it from. I didn't mince any words, and I took out for that section, the 3 sections. I went to the first section. Now, you want to argue? Argue with the people there. Don't argue with me, because there's not anything in here that originally came from what I wrote. I don't have to document anything. I'm telling you this. That's why I say you go there. Like I tell people, I'm an African American. I'm an American of my citizenship, African my origin. I have the loyalty to Africa. Period. Like everybody else got the loyalty to who they want it to be. And I stand on it. So I ain't got nothing. You, look. I'm just talking about what is. Everything I said, you can check it. The Russians said it openly. Burkina Faso said openly, we're going to get us a nuclear plant. The Russians and the rest of their documents said that when they said that part of what they were releasing, that when we finish this nuclear plant of Burkina Faso, the Africans will be able to make their own nuclear plant. So he said, we're going to give you the technology to spread. And you do like the United States, France, China, Pakistan. You get that nuclear energy and you refine it to 20% for medicine, for agriculture. But if you feel that there's somebody threatening you, manufacture it up to 90% and put it in the goddamn bomb. That's what you do. Like every other country who got nuclear weapons do. Israel is threatening everybody. So why can't the Africans have it? What's wrong with that? We only want to be fair in this world, then they teach us to be fair? So the question is, if they get the nuclear reactor, let the United States and all your enemies scratch their head to see whether Burkina Faso upped it to 90%. You want to take a chance on maybe France, what's the name is? The capital of France.
Paris.
You think the French may be a little concerned about that disappearing? Those days are over where you're going into somebody's country and killing them.
Can't do it no more.
All right, Zoom. Question, Zoom?
Find out if they can hear you, man.
Yeah. Okay, Zoom, no question. All right, we're going to have one more question, then we're going to lock it down. Anybody up here? Question? Lady V?
So in other words, their threat of White Lives Matter,
Say that again?
they're trying to do they're doing their White Lives Matter.
Look, I'm 80 years old. As I tell my children, I lived in a world they don't know. The first 40 years of this country, I tell them, you ate organic food. Okay? Cancer didn't exist almost. The United States, they just said that what's the name of this? Clinton, we read it twice or 3 times. Clinton, Bush, Obama, Biden, this guy, Trump, and Biden. The old government says these countries, these 5 presidents, we the United States of America, killed 1 million people directly intervening. In that the damage we did to these countries were dispossessed. Dr. Lewis didn't say this. I'm reading what they put. I pick it right out of the paper for everybody to read it. That's what they said. And they meant to use it, $8 trillion. Oh, you gotta pay taxes. Who got the $8 trillion worth of debt this country's in? Now it's everybody's debt. Who got it?
Not us.
And then you ask yourself the question. You have a democracy here? Democracy, see, the people vote.
Fascism.
People don't vote for a damn thing in this country.
Fascism.
You have a republic. Republic is when they set it up so representatives could represent you to do it. That's what you're a representative of. Okay, now, we read the documents, and I'll finish quickly, over and over. What did the two big universities say about their study, a 20-year study, as to what federal, state, and city laws are passed that benefit the people or the corporation? They told you 95% of every law in this country benefit the corporation, and it's based upon bribery. $5 billion to give these, I don't know what kind of, Dr. Ben said these people don't want to work.
That's right.
$5 billion you give to these congressmen and the rest of them, and they give what to the universities of the United States government. Go to the United States government, go to those universities, the white professors who stated that 95% of every law, federal, state, and city done is big corporations. So you have a fascism. One of the definitions of fascism is when the state works with private corporations. So you have a fascist country, you have a corrupt country, you have a dictatorship. Anytime the president, go up, look up, what do they call it, these things when they write?
Ronald Reagan.
No, what do they call it? Executive orders.
Right.
3,000 or 4,000.
Reagan.
Executive orders is the fact of law. You got 3,000 executive orders running your life. And who wrote it? The president. And who popularized? So how you going to tell me? See, the thing about the thing about the coup in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Nigeria, the people suffered. They know what they suffered under these leaders. In 90% of the country, the jihadists had. And then when these three men in their group, they made the coup. In 2 years, they recovered 90% of their land, stopped the theft. The United States and ECOWAS threatened them. Ghana, Ivory Coast, Benin, Nigeria, threatening to put back a president of Nigeria that was given the oil, the uranium for 80 cents instead of $2.
Right.
The people knew, and then they asked on the radio, they asked a question. Well, would the Russians and them come back? I said the reason that they got rid of the French, the Germans, United Nations, European Union, and United States is because for 10 years they were there supposedly to protect Burkina Faso. And when each of those 5 entities were there, 90% of the country was overrun by jihadists, and they locked it down so they could steal the gold. So they got rid of them. You're going to go back to the same people who raped you, the French, the United States? You're going to go back to ask them for help? Are you out of your mind? We in the United States, as black people, we got to take what is dished out. We got no choice. But they are the majority of black people. They got the guns. And they formed a union and said that if you, Nigeria, Ghana, Ivory Coast, come to overturn us, we're going to have a full-scale war. You're doing it because the French and the Americans told you what to do. So, you don't have to. You got your guns. Burkina Faso now have jets. They have helicopters. They have modern. They're going to put 1 million men under arms. They got a National Guard. They got 3 satellites up. Russians are helping them, so they're going to survey these jihadists. And Algeria is coming in. So the mistake the Europeans are making by putting these jihadists, it unified them to get together plus Algeria and the rest of them, they're going to build a block. So,
5 minutes.
you see, you have to go into these countries, Ghana, with the masses of people. You got to go up in the mountains of Jamaica. You got to go into Vanuatu when the French and the English was there to see how Europeans treat you. It's no academic thing. I've seen it. I lived through it one year. Vanuatu was independence when I got there. We celebrated independence, but the father Lenny and the rest of them, we couldn't leave the main island because they had gone to Papua New Guinea to get troops to come back to kill and get rid of the French and the British to bring their country under, and they did it. Then the French and the English asked the United States to intervene. So all the black countries got together, like the Sahel nation did, said, if you come in to intervene to overthrow Vanuatu, we're all going to fight. That's that unity the South Pacific country has. I lived through it. Y'all need to go to some of these places, to the outhouse. You need to go and see these children and stuff. The treatment that your people get from these Europeans. I've seen it and felt it one-on-one. So I didn't just read the book and white people are bad people. I see what they did. Right now they're in New Caledonia killing people because they don't want to get rid of the island because it's got a nickel. So the way you get them out, like we said before, Burkina Faso knew what these are the 3 military guys. They knew that ain't not a damn thing going to happen until you get enough weapons to kill who you have to kill.
Defend yourself.
I've never killed anybody. Well, that's what they say. We doctors, we kill 750,000 people a day. The medical profession kills 700,000 people a day, a year, on their own statistic for things they shouldn't have done. You talk about genocide.
That's right, neglect.
See, y'all people gotta live some of the reality of other people, not to have a toilet. Gotta use groundwater.
I've been there,
Come
done
on. Yeah.
They never went through the slavery we went through.
What you talking about? Wait a second, my brother.
They never
Wait a second.
Let me say something.
Wait, Doc.
The slavery that they talked about that African Americans went through in this country, quote, in Encyclopedia Britannica, which is a scholarly study of people.
White people putting their version of it.
A scholarly study. They said our form of slavery, and I quote, was the worst form of slavery ever recorded in the annals of time done to human beings. American chattel slavery. Look it up.
Okay.
No one went through what we went through.
Wait a second. Let me answer the question this way. What we were told in Vanuatu. They want Vanuatu is a small island near Australia. They said to us, before the French came, the population was so large that they could scream and bring the birds down. When I got there, there was 250,000 population in those islands. They lost 95% of their people murdered by the fucking French. And you telling me 95% death rate is anything here? Yeah. You gotta go and see. No, you read the books if you want. You got 25 million people living in Australia, all white. What happened to 5 or 10 million that was there? Dead.
As Malcolm said, I'm bringing it back here. No, what happened to us happened to no other people.
You can't say that. Malcolm can't say that, and these white people can't say that. When the people tell you they lost 90% of their population, when most of the Australians are wiped out, what are you talking about, my brother? You read some book? Go and talk to the people.
We are still suffering from that after 500 years.
That's all I
Ladies and gentlemen, all right.
500 years, we're still suffering. Psychologically, emotionally, we have inferiority complexes, we have no economic.
Because you're not living in your country.
Hold up, baby.
We have psychological problems. We are still suffering, as I quote from Dr. Naim Akbar, we're still suffering from the psychological
let me ask you
slavery. Today, it's still in our DNA system. Today, no one on the planet suffers from that.
Okay.
Let me say this to you.
No one.
The people of the Pacific and others who have their freedom, they don't suffer anymore like we have. You're suffering because you're living in a Nazi white country, and it's never stopped. The people in the Pacific and others suffer the same thing. The difference now in Burkina Faso, they're in control. We don't have any control here. How you gonna tell me some white man tell you in the book? They don't tell you about the genocide. They kill 90% of the people in the South Pacific. What is he talking about?
Comment?
Yeah, I'll just say that, and two things can be right at the same time, and certainly what my brother here is saying is accurate. However, when you bring up other things that is all part of our ma'afa, you're right too, Dr. Lewis, when you mentioned what happened to the original Aborigine in Australia. There's no doubt about it. They were wiped out. When you talk about Congo, 10 million, you're absolutely right. He's balling up 4 centuries of oppression from Africa to here. So the brother's right. I don't think that he should be attacked for that.
Same thing in the Caribbean right now.
Hold on. We should not engage in comparing pain. My pain is worse than your pain. I was raised in a living room. I was raised in a bedroom. I was raised in a bathroom. He's talking about the total experience that's still going on now, as opposed to other countries that might have some level of independence, like what you're talking about with the Sahel region. They're self-determining themselves. He's saying that right now, psychologically, emotionally, culturally, we're devastated. And he's right. There's no question about it. But you're right too. What you're saying is that these other places are making changes that in 10, 15 years are going to make them awesome. But he's saying right now, we're suffering as we speak. So the brother's
So
right.
what I'm going to answer to the question is, me personally, I don't know who is made themselves the judge of what group of African people suffered more under the Europeans.
Agreed.
I don't know, you qualify it in your dictionary, that's my part. Who had the right to qualify who got more mistreated? What I would say to you, and I've always said here, you are not living in your culture. The people in Sahel and the rest of Africa, they're now building themselves. You can't build anything here when it comes to that. So you're suffering still by the Nazis that run the country. These people in Africa, Sahel, they ain't got that problem anymore. They don't have it anymore. We still have it here. I still ask the question, who determines, who makes the decision about who was more mistreated?
I would say that, just to comment, just to say this, everything that I said to you, if you was to do the same research you did in the documents there and go into the public domain, you will find mountains and mountains of historical, factual evidence stating what has happened to us. They use us as experimental guinea pigs. They took us and actually split our women's stomachs over so the psychological problems would be devastating for hundreds of years. Nobody, now this is stuff that's in the public domain.
Let him talk.
It's nothing that I created. I didn't make it up. So what I'm saying is that the stuff that happened to us, even doctors in the public domain have said the thing that they did to us is now still in our DNA. Nobody has had a psychological, an emotional, a devastating attack on their souls, like Du Bois said, in the souls of black folks. It's still in us.
I'll reply something to you. I was born in the United States, okay? I'm pretty sure, got stories that everyone can tell of the mistreatment. I'm not suffering from, past mistreatment. I'm suffering from present mistreatment. And who or you or anybody else to make yourself the one to determine about whose pain was worse?
Brother, can I say this? W.E.B. Du Bois, W.E. Du Bois, he was considered as the father of sociology in terms of putting together research and study of the psychological pains of what Du Bois did. He is a scholar, bar none, in that field. So Du Bois is on the record. He is known as a scholar in the work of
What happened to him?
psychological study.
Where did he have to run to?